Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I trust that you can hear us. The rain is on us again, the noise on the roof. So I thank you all for coming out at short notice and for the delay in the start of these proceedings. But it is a very urgent matter with the disastrous flooding not just in the Penal region, but across the Southland. I am joined with here together with the Chairman of the Penal Davie Regional Corporation, Mr. Gautam Haraj, some fellow members of Parliament, councillors of some of the affected areas. Now, many of you would have seen images last evening, and also during the course of today, many images on social media, mainstream media, on the TV last night. Let me give you an update of the current state of affairs in these areas, where tens of thousands of citizens were forced to endure because of the weather system, which caused flooding and on many, many areas. There has been widespread flooding throughout the Southland: Penal, Erin, Palo Seco, Santa Flora, Rosilac, Aripero, Faizabad being particularly badly affected, as some other areas, I think, also from the Princestown Corporation. Thousands of residents were left marooned in their homes. There was a shutdown of schools. Thousands of students, teachers, and others were trapped in those schools, trapped at their workplaces. In fact, my housekeeper had to spend the night last night at my home because she could not get through the floodwaters to her home in Barrackport. She could not get home. So this morning when I saw her, she said, "I slept here last night." I said, "I know Greg told me that you were staying here because of the floodwaters." She said that she was told that some of the waters in certain areas receded at a certain point, but so it was too late in the night, given the crime situation, she didn't want to venture out. Now, there may be many other experiences, but I have first-hand knowledge of this particular situation. The PDRC, together with its disaster management unit, with help of the Defence Force officers, evacuated students from several schools, including the Penal Rock RC, Penal Rock Presbyterian, Kubera Singh Penal Rock Hindu School, and the Holy Faith Convent. I saw a report in today's Newsday, I can't remember whose byline it was, but any news reporter will know. I saw a report that said even the dead was affected, as floodwaters inundated the Batsha Public Cemetery in Penal, with this final resting spot for many being transformed into a lake. The article continues. For several hours, only the tops of headstones and metal crosses were visible in the cemetery, while dozens of graves, which had neither headstone nor crosses, were completely hidden under the water. Many vehicles were also marooned in floodwaters, including right here at the Penal roundabout by the fire station, by Penal Fire Station, SS Erin Road, and parts of Batsha village. Naturally, there were major traffic pileups, stranding many members of the public on taxi stands and causing Good Samaritans to rescue some with little dinghies. It belongs to dinghies, little boats. Somebody told me, I'm going down to Penal today. They said I may have to take a boat to get there. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but there was a major traffic jam from the time I left home until I got throughout the entire main road. This is partly being caused, of course, because all the side roads are fully backed up with floodwaters still. There were also several reports of fallen trees in areas such as Gopi trees, Penal. So what do we do today? We make several calls. I know the chairman had made a call last evening. I want to make calls to central government to urgently declare the Penal Davie region a high priority relief area, and for central government to deploy the necessary resources. I call for the following. 1, Government must immediately declare Penal Debe a high priority relief area. The Ministry of Local Government and Line Minister Faris Alwari must immediately declare Penal Debe a high priority relief area so as to allow various government ministries to urgently allocate necessary resources to address the affected communities and residents. This will allow for a rapid, focused response to address the current flooding crisis and mobilize necessary resources to protect residents and restore disrupted services. The local government ministry should also ensure that these affected areas get urgent assistance with resources such as equipment and labor from other regional corporations. I want to point this one out. One of the key reasons for this type of destructive flooding is illegal backfilling of lands, illegal diverting of watercourses, illegal dumping of garbage, and illegal developments by some persons and some entities. So whilst it's very easy to blame the regional corporation and or the central government, both must share in the blame, but also residents have to share in the blame, those who engage in illegal diverting of watercourses, illegal backfilling of lands, illegal dumping of garbage, illegal developments by some persons and some entities. So everyone has some blame in this blame game that we want to go down. However, it is the role of government to remedy these defects. And so whilst all this illegality is taking place, where is the law? Where is the enforcement of the law to prevent these illegalities? And thereafter, where is the central government in assisting in communities that have been so badly devastated by the flooding? And as we said, the rain is still on us again, and therefore we can expect more of the same throughout the rest of this evening and into tomorrow. Now it begs a very crucial question, this illegal activity that is taking place. Why must the majority of persons in the area be flooded out because of the unlawful actions of a few unscrupulous persons and entities? It is a majority who suffer from the illegal activities by some persons. This is not just illegal, breaking the law, but is unfair. It is destructive and dangerous for the majority of residents. The government and relevant authorities must take firm, urgent action to address this matter. I therefore call on all regional corporations, with the full backing of the local government ministry, to do these things. 1, issue stop work notices on illegal developments. Issue stop work notices on illegal developments. Ramp up garbage collection. Identify all encroachments and realignments of watercourses. And 4, launch legal action against all offenders. I further call on the local government ministry to provide funding for this legal action, the legal action to take place. I also call for immediate mobilization of equipment and personnel in the affected areas. I urge Minister Alwari to facilitate the development and deployment of essential heavy equipment, including trucks, backhoes, excavators, lowboys, dinghies, and bobcats. Additional support should be provided by redirecting equipment and manpower from other regional corporations, and also the utilization of CPEP to enhance flood relief efforts in the PDRC and in other areas. Further, 6, impact of budget reallocation on PDRC's disaster preparedness. I want to point out a very important matter in relation to this, and our chairman will join me with a point that he has to make that impacts on what is happening with respect to helping prevent flooding. There has been a recent memo dated September 2nd, 2024, which detailed a significant budget reallocation which has impacted the PDRC's ability to respond effectively to disasters and other matters. Funds are totaling over $43 million, initially allocated for essential regional corporation services, were diverted to CPEP and RDC, limited resources for the PDRC. So the monies were lifted out, taken away from the PDRC's funding allocation, and allocated to what? To CPEP and the Rural Development Company, RDC. Direct reallocation to CPEP was over $36 million. Transfer to the National Reforestation and Watershed Project, $7 million. This reallocation has taken away funding for disaster preparedness, including $225,000 for procurement of major vehicles and equipment, and $45,000 for disaster preparedness. All of this under Head 43, Subhead 09, Project Group W. So here we see over $43 million siphoned out of the budgetary allocation for the Penal-Davie Regional Corporation and pumped into CPEP, pumped into the Rural Development Company, pumped into the National Reforestation Project, and also taken out of monies that should have been used for procuring vehicles and equipment and for disaster preparedness. Further, lack of funding by the Ministry of Finance. I am told by Chairman Gautam that the PDRC requested $32 million in its development program, draft estimate, to address 130 drainage and irrigation projects for the 2025 fiscal year. And the Ministry of Finance allocated in May $5 million, which means the corporation can at best do, 20 small projects. That is a dismal failure, abysmal failure. For a request of $32 million down to $5 million. So when we see the disasters here, the relief needed, urgent relief needed, they have stripped the corporation of the monies. Firstly allocated, they've diverted it away and pumped it into things. I know we're in an election year, and trust me, there'll be no election this December. It will be next year. Trust me, it will not be this year. I've counted the 35 days, there will be no election this year, unless you want an election on Christmas Eve. So, the money is allocated for this fiscal year, pumped into CPEP, short-term employment. I'm happy for everybody who gets a job. I'm happy for everybody who gets a job with the REC. I'm happy for everyone who gets a job with the National Reforestation Project from these monies siphoned out of the vote of the PDRC. And I'm sure Mayor Ru may have similar stories about the Sapara Regional Corporation. The money is being siphoned out and put into these make-work programs. Why did I talk about elections? Because that's what they're doing. They're taking the money and the make-work programs of CPEP, RDC, and reforestation ready to buy votes or attempt to buy votes. So we want that money back in the region. And if it is that you've given it to CPEP, send CPEP down here. Create employment. Create employment here and in the other regions. So we can help with the high alert measures, relief measures. I call for CPEP's active engagement in flood relief. With the increase in the CPEP budget, we call on CPEP to actively participate in flood relief operations in the Penal-Davie region. The additional funds should be directed toward providing manpower, equipment, and logistical support to alleviate the flooding impact and deliver assistance to affected residents. I know the chairman called for Penal-Davie to be declared a disaster zone. I call for it to be a high relief area, high priority area for relief, and therefore mobilizing of all possible resources. CPEP will send a strong commitment to public safety and community support. I urge the Ministry to act promptly to protect Penal-Davie residents and to ensure a coordinated response. I further call for the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services to begin assessments to affected residents and for funding to be allocated for disaster relief grants and compensation to those affected. So we call further for assessments to be done to allow us to make compensation packages to assist the affected residents. Now, as is customary, the regional corporations and residents will begin their cleanup operations. We've been assisting the corporation and others. They will engage in cleanup, assessing damage done to their homes, appliances, livestock, crops, vehicles, clothing, and this will total in the millions. But what is different this year is that this disastrous flooding has come in the week when WASA decided to shut down Desalcott for maintenance. So there need to be massive cleanup efforts, and this happens in the same week that we will be getting no water from Massa. All areas in South and Central, the country's primary flood zones are affected, but it's especially having a severe impact on the cleanup efforts in the Southland. Again, I want to remind the public authorities and government that this will have another knock-on or knock-off effect, which will affect health. Health issues will arise now. So in addition to the major losses and damages already caused by the heavy rainfall, we are now going to see a severe impact on the health of residents and particularly of our children. As you may know, the mud, the muck that accumulates, debris, etc., poses severe sanitation risks. The threat of waterborne diseases is a serious concern, as well as the breeding of the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, particularly since the last flood saw a major increase in the amount of dengue diagnoses and deaths in South Trinidad. In this regard, I am calling for coordinated efforts by the Ministry of Public Utilities to get truck-borne water to communities in South Trinidad, as well as to establish community water tanks to assist in the cleanup efforts, and of course for normal potable water for drinking, cooking, etc. The vote for water trucking through the regional corporation is very, very inadequate to facilitate the number of requests that are coming in from constituents. In this regard, the regional corporation needs the direct support of central government. This matter must not be left to languish because it impacts directly on the health and well-being of constituents and residents. In conclusion, on behalf of my constituents and on behalf of all residents who have been affected by the flooding, I'm calling on government to ensure that they assign the necessary state resources to assist residents and citizens of the affected areas. I call on government to put in place all necessary measures to take legal action against those engaged in illegal conduct, which contributes to the flooding. I look forward to urgent responses from government. And I will ask for your questions in a moment. I will tell you I plan to call the Honorable Minister Faris Al-Rawi for his urgent response. I had intended to do so a few minutes ago, but we didn't get through. So I will call the minister responsible for local government to urgently address the situation taking place in the south, and in particular, the Penal Davie Regional Corporation. Now, where is he? I haven't seen him for a few days.
Yes.
Questions from the floor?
Given the widespread flooding, how has the corporation been coping with the disaster and limited resources?
I'll ask the chairman to address that matter.
Okay. What else?
So given the widespread flooding so far, how has the corporation been coping given the limited resources?
Not well.
In this case, we are starved definitely for resources, and we are making the call. Hence the reason why yesterday at 3 p.m. I declared it a disaster, and formally through our DMU to the ODPM do the notification that there is a disaster in this region, thereby expecting that the central government through the ODPM will correspondingly appropriate the necessary resources which is required for cleaning support. Yesterday we fended on our own the accompaniment of the Defence Force, as the Member of Parliament said. But that was only to take the measures sufficient to get people into their homes and to evacuate where needed. But in terms of the cleanup, the exercise and the projection is huge, and we definitely need more resources in terms of labor, in terms of warm bodies on the ground, in terms of resources in the cleaning supplies and other support that people need when we get to them. We have been unable to reach everyone in terms of those who are affected. So as it is, we also need more staff to be able to do the IDA, the initial damage assessment, and to be able to have a comprehensive approach to this. Definitely need. Tomorrow morning at 7, we will be initiating our incident command center, and that is the seriousness in terms of the interests of the public and the residents that we see, that we are treating with that severity.
The president of Tutor said that he complained today that it took the ministry a couple of hours to approve that schools in this area dismiss their students. And he said, the process should lie on the school and not take that length of time for someone in Port of Spain to decide on what takes place with the children in South. As a former Minister of Education, what are your thoughts on, the future President's view that the ministry should really make that process quicker?
But I totally agree that there should be a process for high alert when incidents arise, whether it is in a region, whether it is in a particular community. There should be some fast action, fast reaction process that should be undergone. So the tutor president is complaining that it took hours. I don't think the enforcement even knew what was happening here because they don't care. They do not care. Where was the minister? Did the minister issue any guideline? When? Hours later. By which time Good Samaritans had already begun to evacuate students on their own. And therefore, there should be a better fast response, not just for this. There may be other incidents in one school where that school should have the authority to say, look, something bad is happening here, let's get these children safely into their homes. Yes, I agree, there should be a faster process. Our children are our future, our children, they are our treasures. They should come first in every single thing.
I want to ask you something unrelated to this.
I'll try.
So if you would comment on the postponement of the committee meeting and we want to report.
Well, this is another sign of the government, what is it, duck and run? They ducked and run. You have a parliamentary joint select committee on the Auditor General's report. That report has gone right up to the Privy Council. The government has been ruled to have acted wrongfully. Their lawyers are collecting, the Eater Food lawyers, millions of dollars in legal fees to go right up to the Privy Council, come back right down here for the case to be tried. So, will I comment? I said the government is hiding again. But I remember famous words in the parliament, they could run, but they cannot hide. They will not escape. We will not let that matter rest. Almost $3 billion cannot be accounted for. Where has that money gone? The government has to account, and if not today, when we form the government, we will put a full inquiry into the missing $3 billion.
There's also the TTPS's investigation into the Jadon Launch, and they're saying there wasn't enough investigation to lay any charge linking bullying to his death.
I don't know what evidence went to the TTPS, and I would prefer not to comment at this time. But it's indeed sad that a child has died in circumstances that are very suspect, and that police has done this so quickly and put it to rest. I think we'll have to wait further evidence, further persons coming forward. I would not want to pronounce on that very, very tragic and sad matter. That's it. Got off easy today. The chairman has something he would like to raise.
Okay, 2 points quickly, leading off from the Member of Parliament, very accurate account of the funding. I will explain what it means to the public. In the year 2024, which would have ended the financial year, ended on September 30th, the budget, when it gives an allocation, what it is really is that the government should follow with that figure in terms of a release to the corporation to allow the corporation to carry out the necessary projects. To bring it home, the PDRC has completed 79 projects. This would include box culverts, bridges, irrigation type projects that would have helped in terms of flooding. And those projects, the release for it in line with the allocation has not happened, which means that that allocation figure that was given at the previous budget for the 2024 year has not been honored by the government. So what it means is that for this year, 2025, from what they are indicating, is that that money would have to be taken out. So the public is really cheated then in terms of new projects which are definitely needed in terms of alleviating flooding in this region. It means that the money that was supposed to be paid for projects completed last year will now be used for this year. We are making a call that that should definitely not take place, and that the region should be given the money that has been allocated in this year's budget, and last year's completed works should be paid from last year's allocation. Secondly, the magnitude of the disaster definitely points to increased intervention, and the arrangement for that intervention has been explained to the public over 1 year ago by the Minister of Planning. The Ministry of Planning is a beneficiary of a grant, a US $10 million grant for flood adaptation. The South Oropouche River Basin, of which the 60% of the PDRC sits in, is definitely in need of those higher engineering type, higher intervention type programs and remedies such as retention ponds in the Haggard Trace area, widening of river channels, embankment, strengthening of river embankment, riverbed, there's issues on the riverbed in the woodland area. None of these projects have started. For over 1 year, which this project was launched on September 4, 2023, to now, the research has been in place. This is what we are told. It is being managed by Engineering Department of UWI, and that studies are being done. But today, we face the reality, and as the Member of Parliament said, lives are in danger, livestock is in danger, people are traumatized. Yesterday, we saw school children are traumatized. The call we are making is that immediately, the results of those studies, we should see the benefit on the ground. We should see the construction of those retention ponds started, the widening of those river channels, the strengthening of the river banks, so that we cannot have this disaster repeated. And we have had enough experience that the central government, the Ministry of Planning, should act, and the Ministry of Works and Transport. Today, we saw at the Tremont picnic site in Tulsa Trace, and why I'm saying this, because we'll be expecting major flooding again now in Suchi Trace and Woodland and so on, because the pumps there were not operating today when we visited, and there's a breach on that riverbank. And that very said river is one previously identified by the PDRC, that the riverbed and the riverbank is in compromise and work should be done. And the Ministry of Works and Transport have accepted the responsibility and have indicated to us through our regional coordinating meeting that they are doing work in that particular river. But none of those works are seen, so a call is made here, a strong call, that both for the SORB project, which is a formal project under that grant which I explained, and also for the Ministry of Works to carry out these works now, real works, so that it can benefit the people of this region. Thank you. Turn on the pump. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Other corporations.
Several corporations. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we lost $10 million last year, and that's people.
The question is it all corporations, all 14, or is it only selected corporations?
All 14.
All 14.
But some got more cut than others.
Okay. So I think PDRC was 43 million, your cut was
10 million,
10
10.2
million.
million.
So can you just say, so the UNC for PDRC, but across the country, the question she's asking is whether we have been more effective in the UNC corporations. That's the question.
If it was 43, we lost 10.
Okay. The answer is yes.
It's across. It's
Yes.
across.
Yes.
No, it's across, but the UNC corporations have been, the UNC corporations have lost more, far more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes? Yes? Let's get that clear. The UNC corporations have suffered greater losses. Okay, we're going to tour some of the affected areas. Shanti tells me she has a truck if you want to join us on the truck.
So did I also want to pledge our support as the barrier from the corporation? I know you will need cesspool trucks with clear some cesspits and so on.
Yeah.
We'll communicate and I will make it available to you as early as possible so that you can assist some of the residents with cesspits and so on overflowing.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other corporations, we'll liaise with them.
Yes.
We'll see. Can I just clarify?